All right. Well, this is something that is a long time coming. They gave a presentation about 5 years ago. Anybody there from the 8th grade, 7th grade that you remember? So you remember what you're in for today. I love it. Okay, put your hands down. This is going to be a beautiful time, and there's a lot of participation. So be mindful you're in the church, and I know they're going to encourage you to move and to sing and to do stuff, but you are in a church. So please keep that in mind with your respect and dignity. All right? Well, here we go. Without further ado, I introduce to you Adawe.
And we are here to celebrate Black history. Can we say all right? Can we say all right? All right. Would everybody like to know how to spell our name? It's from West Africa, from Ghana. And our name is Adawe. Coach Des, can you show them how to spell Adawe?
Of course. A-D-A-A-W-E, that's Adawe.
Adawe.
A-D-A-A-W-E, that's Adawe.
Adawe. A-D-A-A-W-E, Adawe.
A-D-A-A-W-E, that's Adawe.
All right. We're going to take you on a journey through West Africa into America. So buckle your seatbelts. Get ready. We are Adawe. Bekeno mea e bambara Masulu masea de mama vea e bamba de beke wanumare e dia e bambara beke
Mazulu masea.
oi 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 dia e bambare beke wanumare oh yeah oh
Biali bambara.
Samera vea e bambara hey Masulu masea de mama vea e bamba de beke wanumare bia e bambara beke
Mazulu masea.
oi 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 vea e bamba de beke wanumare Wanumare, 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 Wanumare. Tela, tela, yamfaduya mayo tela. Tela, yamfaduya mayo tela. Oh, aye, tela, donkey, donkey, don, pero don, tela. Yamfaduya mayo tela. Oh, aye. Tela, yamfaduya mayo tela. Oh, aye. Put your hands together. All right. Are you guys ready to learn a little bit about the instruments on stage? Are you sure? All right, Coach Des is going to teach us about a steady beat.
Let's talk a little bit about this thing called music. Anybody know anything about it? Anybody? A little bit, huh? Who knows what a steady beat is? Anybody know what steady beat? You know steady beat? Can you clap with me? Steady beat goes on and on. Say it.
Steady beat, steady beat, steady beat goes on and on.
I can't hear you. One more time. Steady beat.
On and on.
Nice. So that thing, when the music starts, most music, the steady beat never changes. Okay? Some songs we go fast, we slow down, we stop, we pause, we get all dramatic in it stuff. But mostly the stuff we dance to, it's got that steady beat drive in. It's like the heartbeat of the music, right? That.
What is that called when you're going fast and you're going slow?
Look at there. Well, I've got a helper on stage. Thank you, Miss Bridget. So listen, that's a good one. We went fast in a song. We also went slow in the very same song, right? Does anybody know what that's called? Fast and slow in music. What is that?
Shout it out.
Oh! We have a winner. It is called tempo. Can everybody say tempo? Tempo. Say again. Tempo. Nice. We got another song for tempo. Tempo is the speed of music. Tempo goes fast or slow.
Tempo goes.
One more time, here we go. Tempo is the speed of music.
Tempo is the speed of music.
Tempo goes fast or slow.
Tempo goes fast or slow.
Very good demonstration. Give yourselves a hand. Right. Tempo is the speed of music. It's just how fast or slow we go. Okay? Got it? Steady beat and tempo. Nice. Now, let's combine some of those elements. We're going to get to this thing called polyrhythm. A rhythm is a contrasting element on top of, alongside of, along with the steady beat. All right? So here we go. Your job will be to hold the steady beat.
Can I do
Yeah? Let's build on top of that. Join me. Here we go. Clap. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now it goes on and on, so don't get tired. All right. So who would like to join me first with a contrasting rhythm? Mo. Don't change. All right, who's next? Nikiota. Let's go, Nikki. Miss Phyllis, what do you add to that thing? What do you got?
Bobby.
Miss Bridget. You feel that? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and stop. Oh my gosh, give yourselves a hand.
Does anybody know what that is called when you put all the rhythms together? Does anybody know what that's called? She did say it earlier.
Oh, we got-
Somebody shout it out.
Shout it out.
It is
Yeah, definitely
music,
music,
but it's a
beats.
specific kind of music called a polyrhythm. Yes, and polyrhythms are very popular in Latin America and in Africa. Okay, so you guys give yourselves a round of applause for being part of our polyrhythm.
All right, good morning. All right, so let's learn about this other drum really quickly. I don't want to talk too much because I want to get into the music and get you guys moving, right? So the name of this drum that I'm holding, I've been playing today, is called djembe. Everybody say djembe. Djembe. So the origin of this drum, where it's from, the country that it's from, It's called Mali. Everybody say Mali.
Mali.
Mali. Don't forget, because I'm going to ask you. All right. So, once upon a time, the Mali Empire, there was a king by the name of Sundiata Keita. And the griots, who are the keepers of tradition and music and songs and stories, decided to come together and give a gift to the emperor at the time. And this gift was the djembe, right? So the djembe has 3 basic sounds. Always do that. All right, so the first sound is the bass. Everybody say goom. Now, the second sound is the tone. Everybody say go. And the third sound is pa. 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 Ah, you guys got the sounds. Those are the 3 basic sounds on the djembe. There are plenty more sounds that you can create on this particular drum, but also we use it for communication, right? So way back in the day, there was no cell phones, no telephones. And guess what? How we communicated, right? So if I want to invite you to my party and you live like maybe a few blocks away, this is how I'll communicate. Right, so also the drum and the dialogue in which the drum is speaking is the native language of Mali, which is Malinke, Bambara, or other native language that's within the region. So when they're playing, they're speaking through the rhythms and through the drums, right? So that's how we use to communicate. And also the purpose of the drum by the name djembe, which is ankabe, ankaje, means let's come together as one and play, okay? So, last thing, the type of skin that's on the drum, can you guess what it is? Go for it. What'd you say?
Leopard would be.
Leopard is close. I respect leopard. That's powerful. Go ahead. Cow skin, awesome, very close. Dad's gonna tell you about the cow skin. Uh-huh. You said leather? Yes, a type of leather, which, and
Oh.
yeah. Everybody said, man. How did you know that? Great guess. So the skin on the drum, it's a goat. That's why it's so loud, man, right? And very bright, and the sound travels a lot. All right, so it's also made out of a tree trunk. Usually it's solid on both ends, but they carved it out and created this beautiful goblet drum shape and put 2-3 rings on it to hold the skin and the rope to hold the skin and also to tune it. All right, so this is the djembe. Everybody say djembe? Djembe! Where is it from? What country? Mali. Woo! Mali, the Empire of Mali. Awesome. And now I'm going to pass it on to Des because the orchestration of the djembe continues.
So our dear friend Nikki is teaching us about the djembe orchestra. Together we are a djembe orchestra. Right in the middle, the biggest ones, the loudest ones, the most important ones, the Doon Doon family. I'm going to tell you about really quickly. The biggest one in the middle we consider Mama Bear. She talks the most. She communicates the most. She's the loudest. So Mama Bear in the middle is called the Doon Doon Ba. Can you say Doon Doon Ba?
Doom doom ba.
Doon Doon Ba. Next to Mama is the Papa Bear. It's called the Sangban. I'm double checking to make sure because I switched them around today. The Sangban, Papa Bear is on your right. And it communicates mostly with Mama a lot of times. And the baby of the bunch, I'm sorry, I told you the Sangban. Doon Doon Ba, Sangban, the baby of the bunch is called the Kinkani. Can you say Kinkani?
Kinkani.
Kinkani. It's the smallest, talks the least in this family. at least. So we have the Dundunba, the Songban, the Kinkani, the Dundun family, the most important part of the djembe orchestra. Thank you.
Of course, it's the most important part because she's playing it. And you know, just how she was saying about the Doon Doon family, right? This is a what? What is this? It's loud. This is a bell. Yeah, cowbell, whatever, right? And it's made out of iron. You know how, have you ever seen anyone put a shoe on a horse? They have to, right? They have to, they hammer it in. That's how they forge these types of instruments. It's made out of steel, and it's high-pitched, so that it could cut through all of the doon sounds and all the drumming sounds, so that the rhythm can be heard. So it keeps kind of the beat. And also, it's a relationship. It's the family. We have the small one down here, which is the mama. Then we have the little one up here, was the little one, is the little child, and they talk to each other. Did you do your homework tonight? Yes, Mama, please. I want to continue to play Nintendo. How about if you don't play your game tonight and do your project in math? Okay, but can I just finish one more game? All my friends are online. All right, so so that is called the Genko. It's called the Genko. Can you do that with your shoulders? Genko-wi. Oh, you got to move your shoulders. Genko-wi.
Gengo-wi.
Ah, very good.
Does anybody know what this is called? Shake. I heard it. It is a shaker, but it is a beat as well. And, okay, I'm very enthusiastic about natural food and recycling. You know, in Africa, that is where recycling started. Like with the djembe, it is a piece of wood with the goat skin, and we made the curry goat before. So everything is used, and this is actually something that you can grow in your garden. Did you know that? It's I heard somebody, it is a gourd, and it's in the pumpkin family. So during Halloween, just like the pumpkin, you're gonna take out all of the flesh and the seeds, and you're gonna shine up the outside of the gourd, and then you put what's called a skirt on it. And then this rope, you don't just put the rope in haphazard. Oh, I'm just gonna tie it. It's all math, so study your math. And just like crocheting, you're going to pay attention to the rhythm of the stitch. And basically you make this skirt, you put the beads on it, and then it becomes a musical instrument, it becomes a shake-a-day. Can you say shake-a-day?
Shake-a-day. Very good. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm going to introduce you to the next piece we're going to do. It's called lamba. Can you all say lamba?
Lamba.
So lamba was a traditional rhythm that was played in the Mali Empire in West Africa, and it was played in special occasions and ceremonies. And it had this song that gives thanks to the Jale. The Jale was the entertainer of the village, and because he did such a great job in keeping the tradition alive, then they had this song for him. Can you all say Jale? So Jale, I'm going to teach you a song, the song that they were playing with this rhythm. And you know, in Africa, there's no audience. Everybody's part of the show. There's always a call and response. So I'm going to do the call. You're going to repeat after me. I'm going to teach you the words first. I'm going to break it down into two parts so it's be a little bit easier. Repeat after me. E jaliada.
E jaliada.
Alaleke jaliada.
Alaleke jaliada.
E jaliada.
E jaliada.
Alaleke jaliada.
Alaleke jaliada.
So we're going to put it together. E jaliada. Alaleke jaliada. E jaliada. Alaleke jaliada. So I'm going to teach you the melody now. All right, I'm going to sing your part. E jaliada, la leke jaliada. E
jaliada.
Hey, jaliada, la leke 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 jaliada.
Wow. Now we're going to go into something else. Yes, because we're going to respect the time. Hey, so, I have a question. You want to take this, Mr. Bridget? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. First of all, let's give our staff, our principal, who is not here right now, a round of applause for having our assembly today. And Mr. Jamal Brown and all the committee members that decided, you know what, we should do something for this important moment, no matter what else is going on. I love to learn about other cultures, don't you? I do. I love when Mr. G and I talk about his family, his ancestry. It's so amazingly interesting to me. And that we should always celebrate everybody's culture. We're all different. We're all the same. But it's interesting to know where people are from. What kind of foods? And how did that happen? And how was that drum made? And this is why we celebrate all cultures. So I really give honor to our school, who decided to have this wonderful assembly. And I applaud, yeah. And this applause, and let's keep it going, because guess what? We are applauding all of our ancestors and our ancestry. We aren't who we are, strong people of this country, strong people of God, without our ancestors. We stand on their shoulders, yes? So we need to learn who they are. So this particular next song is a part of history, of my history, a lot of your history, probably most of our histories, but all had some form of oppression. And gosh, so many years ago, and we know the story when the enslaved people were brought over here to work. And can you imagine someone knocking on your door and snatching you out of your home? One day you may never see your sister, your brother. You may never see your mother or father again. It's pretty tough to think about that, isn't it? But that's what happened. It's not that we shouldn't talk about it. It's how we grow from it. Because now we do things different. We've learned to love. So they were enslaved people working in the fields all day, every day. And what did they want most of all? What would you want if you were enslaved? Freedom! Freedom! Who doesn't want that? Well, the brilliant ancestors had to figure out how to do what they did, because now remember, we were talking about hundreds of people with different languages, customs from Africa, brought here all together. Now make it work. All different languages. They didn't know how to speak to each other. And unfortunately, the slave masters took away what? Communication, the drums. They were taken away from us because they knew that if they were to communicate and come together, they may overpower them and they can be free. They couldn't allow that. So they snatched the communication. So what are they doing? But our goal is to be free, to have our families, to live a life. And so toiling in the fields, working 7 days a week, sometimes all day and night. They had to come up with something. Brilliant people, they came up with a code called Juba. Can you say Juba?
Juba.
Now you have to say it very softly like this. Juba. Yes, and Juba. It was a code that everyone understood within songs that had messages that only they could understand. Old spirituals like "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, coming for to carry me home." You know that song? A lot of our older, over 30, 40, 50 may know that. Those are spirituals. Inside those songs were messages. That one was, in the middle of the night, the chariot, maybe Harriet Tubman, is going to come and get us. We're going to meet at the river, and we're going to go, and we're going to escape. Nobody knew that. They were saying Jimba. So they were singing their songs and giving messages at the same time. This particular song is the one that they knew that the river, the Ohio River in the South, was you can go through that river, and the other side would be freedom. The southern states, but the goal was to get to that. Go through the river. So wade in the water is the song of that secret code as they were toiling. Tonight is the night. Tonight, Juba! Juba! Oh. And my daughter told me a little lesson I didn't know. You know what hush puppies are? Hush puppies are these little fried pieces of dough, right? And we get them in the southern food places and stuff. Well, the Africans created hush puppies because when the slave owners knew the the enslaved people wanted to escape, they sought the dogs after them, right? Can you imagine being chased by a bunch of dogs? Tough. But, so brilliant people again, they created out of the scraps in the trash can, because that's how they ate. They ate and made dishes. That's what soul food comes from. For all the scraps that the slave masters would throw away, African people would take them and make meals. That's where we get our black-eyed peas, our greens, our corn, our hog maws. Hush puppies was something they came up with because as they were running away from the dogs, they would throw the hush puppies in the field, and the hush puppies, what would the dogs do? They would go after the hush puppies, and it gave us a path to escape. Hush puppies, that little thing has so much significance. That's the richness of learning about things. So, this song, tonight. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Children, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble that water. God's gonna trouble the water. He's gonna trouble. God's gonna trouble the water. Come on, children. God's gonna trouble the water. He's gonna trouble that water.
Well, you see the people, they're dressed in red.
Oh, I see
God's
all
gonna
the children
that
dressed in red.
They must be the children that Moses led.
Oh, we must be the children that Moses led. We came by twos. We came by threes. Save my soul and rescue me.
Wade in that water.
We're gonna wade
in the water.
children. Let's
Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble.
He's gonna trouble
the water.
He's gonna trouble that Malikumiye, shani kani, sunganuriye, shani kani. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh.
Malekumiye shalekane, sunganuriye shalekane, malekumiye sunganuriye,
Malikumiye, shani kani.
malekumiye sunganuriye, malekumiye sunganuriye, shalekane, malekumiye sunganuriye, shalekane, malekumiye sunganuriye.
Hallelujah, shani kani. Yeah, shani kani. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, shani kani. Zungaluye, shani kani. Hallelujah, there it is. Freedom. Hallelujah, shani kani. Zungaluye, shani kani. Hallelujah, Shalekane, yes, Shalekane, freedom!
Freedom!
Liberty.
Yes, yes. So, yes.
Well,
That was great. Thank you guys for being here.
wow. Wow. Oh, my. Oh, yes. We're going to have them back in just a moment, but I would like to just say a few words about our featured speaker today. And Dr. Kenneth Orduña, a Navy veteran, became the CEO of the Central Neighborhood Christian Health Clinics in 2018. He has not one, but 2 doctorates in theology, and although for a large part of his life, his background was in business and politics, he found health care to be his calling. Accessibility was important to him, and under his leadership, he has expanded his health and dental clinics across multiple counties. He is a proud father to 5 beautiful children and 8 grandchildren, 2 of which are present today, Alonzo and Lorenzo Sparrow. Yeah, give it up. All right. We are honored and blessed to have him part of our Westchester Lutheran family. I introduce to you Dr. Kenneth Orduña.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give him a big hand again. Adawe, come on. Let's give him a big hand. Adawe. It is my honor and my pleasure to be here today. It's a tough act to follow. But I follow them chronologically because that's how we communicated. That's how the slaves communicated. Wade in the water, be still in the night. All of that is history. And slaves could not communicate. They were forbidden to write. They were forbidden to learn how to write under penalty of death. So they had to form another way of communicating. So thank you very much for that knowledge. Today we're celebrating the Black History Month, and I'm going to be talking about the labor unions and their contributions to the Black community and those who organize it. I'm going to talk about the sleeping car porters and how they were organized into the first Black union in the United States. And then I'm going to conclude with the sanitation workers' strike in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968. So with that, the sleeping car porters were founded by Mr. Pullman. He had this genius idea of, wait, first of all, how many people in here have been on a train? Very good. That's how we used to travel in the United States, was by trains before there were airplanes. And Mr. Pullman, around 1850, decided he was going to take railroad cars and turn them into luxury sleeping cars and dining cars. And he did that. And his proposal was that he was going to lease these luxury cars to the railroads. And as he leased them to the railroads, they would have people who would be attending the passengers, and they were called porters. Thus, the sleeping car porters. Today, I'm going to talk about Mr. A. Philip Randolph, who founded the first African-American union called the Sleeping Car Porters. As you see on the screen, you see a picture of a sleeping car, which also has a dining car in it. Mr. A. Philip Randolph was chosen to organize these porters into a union. These porters were former slaves selected by Mr. Pullman because of their propensity of servitude and working long hours. Mr. Randolph was chosen to organize them because he was not a member of the sleeping car porters. Now, the porters had a hard job. They had to work over 400 hours a month before they could get their pay, which was 26 cents per hour. And in doing that, in order for them to earn their 26 cents, they had to put in 1,100 hours. That means they had to do a lot of free labor. They had to go 2 hours or 3 hours before the trains were ready to be loaded up to prepare them, and they didn't get paid for that. And after a trip, they had to make sure that the cars were clean. You know, when you fly on the airplane and the plane's about ready to land, the flight attendant will come through and say, if you have any rubbish or garbage, please put it in this plastic bag. Well, the porters had to do all of that. They had to clean it up and get it ready for the next trip. So after 12 years of a hard fight, Mr. Randolph organized the porters into the union called the Sleeping Car Porters Union. And with that, they negotiated them now, instead of working 400 hours a month, to 250 hours per month. And they got an increase. That movement itself, the sleeping car porters, gave rise to what we call the middle class in America. We had people that dressed up in a uniform. We had men who had their shoes shine and they looked well, even though they were making, after they got unionized, they made better wages and they become the middle class, which also helped for the great migration of African Americans or blacks coming from the South to the North. And so that was the beginning of the middle class action. So doing that section, these are some of the tasks that they had to do. They had to make up beds for people to go to sleep at night. You see them doing that. They had to carry luggage. They had to wait on people. And you see the gentleman in the picture and ladies that are riding on the sleeping car, they rode in suit and ties across country. Next slide, please. So after Mr. Randolph organized that into a union, he became the president in 1935, and thus the birth of the first African American or black union in the United States, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. Mr. Randolph was a very well-respected man. We all know about the March on Washington in 1963. But Mr. Randolph used that tactic. He, along with his colleague, Bayard Rustin, another civil rights activist, whom I will get into in a moment, joined together to organize a march on Washington in 1941 because the defense plants were segregated. And he threatened the first march on Washington in 1941. President Roosevelt begged him to call it off, but Mr. Randolph was determined to go forth with that march, which resulted in President Roosevelt signing an executive order called 8802 to integrate the defense plans. So Mr. Randolph is the only human being that I know that has got a president to sign an executive order. In 1947, the armed services were segregated. And Randolph again came to Truman because in the military was segregated. In World War II, blacks had to fight in units by themselves, and they had white officers over them. And with the threat again to President Truman, Truman signed legislation to integrate the armed services in 1947. So Mr. Randolph is the only man that I know who has gotten two separate presidents to sign two executive orders in the United States. Here we have a picture of Alonzo and Lorenzo's great uncle. First Lieutenant Ralph Orduna was a Tuskegee Airman who flew in the all-black Fighter Squadron 302 99 Pursuit Squadron in World War II. He flew 26 missions over Germany, escorting bombers. The American bombers were flying over, but they were being attacked by the German fighter pilots, and we lost many bombers. And the Tuskegee Airmen were given the task to escort these bombers and to fight those pilots, those German planes who were attacking the bombers. Under the escorts of the Tuskegee Airmen, we never lost one bomber. Every plane that they escorted, they brought them back safely. And it was a rough thing for the Tuskegee Airmen. A lot of people didn't think blacks had enough brains to fly or even drive a car. But they proved them wrong. And one of the persons that I want to give contribution to was Franklin Roosevelt's wife, Eleanor Roosevelt. She went to Tuskegee, and it was called the Tuskegee Experiment. And she had a Tuskegee Airman to take her up on a 1-hour flight over Alabama. After that, there was no question about the doubts of the Tuskegee Airmen. The Tuskegee Airmen were awarded over 350 of them. Most of them were not alive. Got the Presidential Congressional Medal, Gold Medal, for their bravery in World War II. Here we have Mr. A. Philip Randolph with his colleague Bayard Rustin. Bayard Rustin is a very little unknown hero in the civil rights movement, but a big giant. He and Mr. Randolph got together to put together the March on Washington in 1963. Mr. Randolph was the director. Bayard Rustin was the organizer to put that together in 1963 in Washington. We all know about that march in Washington in 1963 because that is where Dr. Martin Luther King gave his address I Have a Dream. Before I get to that, but I want to digress just for a second. Bayard Rustin was the single organizer of the March in Washington. He organized all of it, and he had 6 weeks to do it. And here we have a picture of Bayard looking at some drawings of the mall in Washington, laying out the logistics. We did not know whether that march was going to be a success. Had 6 weeks to pull it together. And it was with the labor unions and the church and the clergy across the United States. The word got out. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have fax machines. We didn't have ways of communication, but the word got out. But we did not know until the morning of the march, August 28, 1968, whether that was going to be a success or not, until we saw the first bus come down the mall, and then the second bus, and then the third bus, and we said, we have it on. Over 250,000 men and women came together for the March on Washington in 1963. That's where Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. And you all know that. How many of you know that? This is where he gave it at, on the March on Washington, which was organized by Bayard Rustin and under the direction of A. Philip Randolph. During that year, 1968, was one of the greatest demonstrations for equality that we've had in this country. Next. After the march in Washington in 1963, people thought that the civil rights movement had kind of just disappeared. Bayard Rustin was a very keen and strategic tactician and organizer. He wrote an article, From Protest to Politics. And in that paper, he advanced the argument that says, what good does it do if we eat in any restaurant that we want to or sleep in any hotel if we don't have the price of the meal or the price of the room? Therefore, we must go from protest to politics. And this was his paper that Bayard wrote. And just to take one more second on Bayard Rustin, he was one of Martin Luther King's trusted lieutenants. He went to India and studied with Gandhi for 6 months. He came back and helped organize the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. And he taught Martin Luther King the nonviolent portion of the movement. And that had to be a part of it. Based upon the argument and the discussions that we must go from protest to politics, the A. Philip Randolph Institute was put together and formed. It was formed by Black trade union movement organizers, the AFL-CIO, and its main purpose was to increase voter registration and participation, and to get people to vote and elect people of our color so that we can make decisions, economic decisions, that would affect our lives. And also in that year, Lyndon Johnson was formed in 1965, the Randolph Institute. Mr. Randolph received after the Randolph Institute was formed, in the United States Congress, we have 5 members, only 5 members in the United States Congress. With the hard work of the A. Philip Randolph Institute and its organization throughout 35 states, we increased that representation, and today we have 57 members serving in the United States Congress. In 1970, we had less than 50 African-American mayors across the United States. And today we have 265 African-American mayors based upon the work of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. I don't know who that guy is, but I was the national field director for the A. Philip Randolph Institute. My job was, I had 35 states to organize A. Philip Randolph chapters in 35 states throughout the South, the Northwest, the Midwest, and the West. And I organized them into chapters to do voter registration, to do voter education, and get people out to vote. So that was a picture of me and Bard Rustin, along with AFL-CIO President Sigmund Erowitz. Here I am. I don't know who that guy is. He has black hair and an afro. But that's me training people how to register and how to vote and how important it was. Like I said, I did that in 35 states throughout the throughout the United States. And to my knowledge, those chapters are still working today. You know, the important part of today's celebration, again, is about unions. And the last union I'm going to talk about is the sanitation strikers in 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. In 1968, February 1, 2 sanitation workers trying to get out of the rain sat in the back of a garbage truck. And something malfunctioned, and 2 of those workers, Mr. Cole and Mr. Walker, were killed. And the sanitation workers, the city, under the Mayor Loeb at that time, who was a segregationist, who did not believe that black people had the right even to not only to vote, but they should be grateful for the wages and the jobs that they had. Put an injunction against the strikers, but the strikers went out, the sanitation workers went out on strike. And they stroked for 64 days to make that the city to honor them. The city said we would give them the death benefits of pay them $500 to bury those 2 workers, but they would not honor their death benefits. And they were a union. They were an ASME union, American Federation of State County Municipal Employees Union. And so the workers went out on strike. And here we have a picture of the truck similar to where the 2 gentlemen sat in to get out of the rain. And they sat in there to get out of the rain because they couldn't go into the building because the buildings were segregated. And that's where the accident occurred. But after 64 days, the marchers, the sanitation workers who were marching for jobs and a better working wages and working conditions won their strike, and they got their better living conditions. Here you see a picture of the sanitation strikers marching. Their slogan was, "I am a man." That's symbolic to Harriet Tubman saying, "Ain't I a woman?" And so they were fighting for their dignity. Martin Luther King came in to help the strikers. He led a strike in March in 1968. And that particular demonstration got very violent. One young man, a teenager, 17 years old, was shot and killed by the police. They brought in the National Guard, and the demonstrators ran to a church where the police followed them and beat them even while they were laying on the floor trying to cover their head. That was a very brutal fight. Martin Luther King said,
all we say to America,
I will be back to help you. On April 3rd, he came back to help the Memphis strikers.
is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
This is a CBS News special report.
Dan Rather reporting for CBS News from New York. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was shot to death by an assassin late today as he stood on a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King had planned to lead another civil rights march in Memphis next Monday. We got the latest on the story now from Russ Hard.
All right, yes. We want to thank you for all of your words, and it has special meaning knowing that you were there, you were seeing all of this, and you spoke from your heart, and we want to, on behalf of the whole school, we want to thank you for that and for sharing your story here. And I know we have cards that are going to be coming up all around us in just a moment, so I asked Phyllis if she could just lead us out and close us out. That would be wonderful. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Orduna. Dr. Orduna, is it Orduna? Dr. Orduno? Is that the name? Is that how we say it? That was amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to end with We wanted to do We Shall Overcome, and we'll keep that in our hearts, but we're going to end, as you guys can start to go out, we're going to end with one of our signature songs called Jole.
And let's give thanks and praise to everyone that has come before us, that has sacrificed for us being here today.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll see you next time. 1, 2.
Mama Yole. Mama Yole.
Hey! 1, 2. Hit me 2 times. Hey!
Mama Yole, Ebby Banama.
Joy, 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 joy.
Ebby Banama. Mama Yole, Ebby Banama. Mama Sikoyole, Saya Mama. Mama Sikoyole, Saya. Salimatio Froko, oh, mea.
Mea, 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 oh, mea.
Yole.
Mea, oh, mea.
Mea, oh, mea,
Baba si foroko. Saya, salimatu yo foroko, oh, mea.
Krobe mani watale. Siko leleleko. Siko laiko.
Wawango, siko laiko.
Krobe mani watale. Siko leleleko. Siko laiko.
Wawango, siko laiko.
Wawango, siko laiko.
One go, sikolaiko.
Wawango, siko laiko.
One go,